Okay. Hello. Hello, Internet. Hi. My name is Luke from the Northern Hemisphere, and I have recently got into keyboards. And it's not exactly the cheapest hobby in the world. I have expensive tastes, and I like to get the best of things. And I thought it would be helpful for me to share with you guys about my findings and what I've learned about owning all of these keyboards over the past like 2.5 years. So basically, this video is kind of geared towards people who have yet to really get into all of these keyboards and are just kind of where I was about 2.5 years ago, where all I had was a little magic keyboard. And some people, all they have might just be a Corsair K70 or something like that. And you're wondering what it's like to own one of these or one of these. So, that is what we're here to talk about. I also brought over this little rubber dome keypad. Just for context, I feel like, I don't know, might be nice to have that there. But yeah, I'm here to kind of talk about what it's like to own a Model M and then to own a Model F. So, let me clean up this desk real quick and we can... Alright, so this is my Model M. So basically this keyboard is, in my opinion, kind of geared towards, it's kind of like the entry drug of the keyboard community, because Model M's are cheap and they're relatively easy to use. I have my Model M cord here, and I just bought one of these converters off eBay, right? And I did buy one of these cheap converters off Amazon, and it's just, I don't know, just like a PS2 to USB, and it was one of these like double split ones. I'll put it on the screen if I can figure out how to do that. And it's, I don't know, it just like really, I've had a lot of issues with it, and it would make keys type wrong and stuff like that. So I got one of these active converters stores right here. And this thing's been great, right? So basically, reasonably painless to use, detachable cable with all of your keys here. With the omission of a Windows key. This does not have a Windows key, but that's okay because I use a Mac, and also that's okay because I have the MX Master, which if you click this key right here, it does kind of like a gestures button, where it like backs out of all your windows. So that way, if you need to like get out of full screen or something like that, you can just click here. I don't know, I might make a review of this, but this is like the best. This is the best like productivity mouse ever made, hands down. MX Master, plug in it. Not sponsored, but amazing. Wish I was sponsored. When we talk, okay, so let's talk about key feel. Key feel is, I'd say, one of the main reasons why people go to these types of keyboards. Besides the fact that they're awesome and that the build quality is pretty much amazing. I mean, these keyboards, I actually just finished fixing up this keyboard. I had an issue where there's this key over here. It got like dislodged, and so I had to like unscrew the keyboard, and the person that I bought it from had screw modded it. Which y'all can look up. I don't know if y'all know about screw modding, but I basically had to unscrew all of the screws and then fix the key and replace it because it had like fallen down into the keyboard, and I had to like move it back into position, and then I re-screwed it, and I also put in some bolts in there. So I guess you could say it's like a partial screw mod, bolt mod. I don't know, but yeah, I basically did like I did some work on this earlier today, and I don't remember where I was going with this. Crunchy keys, right? Non-crunchy keys. So basically, these keyboards use a buckling spring, right? We all know about that. Inside of these keyboards acts very differently, and it feels very differently when you type on it. These keys are very smooth, right? When you type down, they don't really have this like snap to them. When you're pressing the key down, it doesn't quite it doesn't snap. It just kind of like goes linearly down, and the only sound that it makes is when the key is bottoming out. But with this keyboard, it makes a sound when it bottoms out. It also makes a sound before. It's hard to here. Okay, if you hear, it will bottom out like halfway down of me pressing, and then it will like press all the way down after. So if you listen, like, right, and this one is like. So if you're typing quickly, it might not sound that different, but they feel very different because this one has kind of a crunch to it, and this one is very linear. Now, disclaimer: I am not a gamer. Notice I have no RGB on my setup. You probably can't even see my setup actually, but I don't really have any RGB, and I am not a gamer. I am a programmer. So I am a computer nerd, and one of the main reasons why I bought this keyboard is because it's made in, what is that, July 27th of 1988. It's one of the reasons why I bought it, because that's amazing, and it's kind of a piece of history, right? So basically, that being said, this keyboard is targeted towards typists, right? It is targeted towards people who love the novelty of it and are not into super high-tech gaming. Actually, something significant is this keyboard only has 2-key rollover. So if you're playing some game like, I don't know, like World of Warcraft or Guild Wars 2 or something like that, and you need to press multiple keys at the same time, you're going to have issues. This keyboard is really only good for hitting 2 keys at once. So it is good for like normal games, like, I don't know, like Minecraft or something like that, where you're like going forward and you want to also go sideways at the same time. But it's not good for games where you want to go forward, sideways, and hit like 2 different abilities all at the same time. So for gaming, stay away from it, right? But for being a typer, for being a typist, right? For programming, it's kind of a dream to type on. It's really great. I would totally recommend it. And yeah, I'm going to make sure that the camera's recording right. But I will talk about the Model F after this snap. So, I'm back. Yes, it did record, which is good. Basically, these are the 2. So I purchased this guy about 2.5 years ago, and I bought this like my freshman year of college, and it was really great. It was really great to own. There was basically a painless transition transferring from like a modern day keyboard to something like this, right? Something kind of fun is the layout for like a Model M was the first time that the world got to see this type of 101 key layout. And since then, they have been basically copying them. Ever since 1985, 1986, whenever this thing originally came out, they've just been basically ripping off IBM and their design that they made up. Now, with that being said, if you're going to go before this keyboard, you're going to be encountering varying levels of difficulty getting the keyboard to function like a keyboard, basically. I purchased the Model F AT. All right, and I paid a pretty penny for this. Gosh, I think this thing set me back like $300 or something like that. Not a cheap keyboard. I would not recommend this keyboard if you don't really want it. Now, if you wanted it as bad as I wanted it, it's worth every penny, and I love typing on this thing. I use this as my daily driver, and I prefer to type on this over my Model M. One second. Dadgummit, old camera's cutting out on me. All right, as I was saying, I love typing on this thing, but it definitely requires more effort, okay? More effort to type on. This comes with a detachable cable, which doesn't really sound like that big of a deal, but it's really nice to be able to just unplug your keyboard and move it off of your desk, because not all of us have all the desk space in the world, and it's really nice to be able to just take your keyboard off your desk without having to fumble with this. Look how long this cable is. This thing's ridiculous. I have to thread this thing in the back, over the back of my desk, right, to get it to work. And I have to like fumble with this huge thing whenever I want to use my entire desk space to, you know, fix up, for instance, fix up one of these keyboards. I have had a lot of fun. With that being said, I have had a lot of fun messing with this keyboard. So here, let me get some breath. Here, let me move my Model M off of my desk for a second. So, I've had a lot of fun with this Model F for a couple reasons. First off, the key layout, I put this back like pretty much as it was when I first got it, just so that you guys could see what the original layout looks like, okay? Now, if you're looking, I did move the escape key over there, right? And I just left it there because I really hate living life without an escape key. I'm sure you would too. But basically, the keyboard, it almost forces you to put effort into it. So what I have done with this keyboard, and I'll try to put it on screen, is the layout over here. I've already mapped it using this this converter here. I've mapped it using a source converter. This was also not cheap. This cost me like $30-$40. But if you want your keyboard to work properly, you're gonna want to get it. And so I had to remap these keys here, and I remapped these keys over here. And I'll put it on the screen of what I ended up making it look like. But what I was attempting to recreate was these function keys I really like to use all the time, because I can just up and lower my brightness, or skip, play, pause songs, you know, mute my music, that sort of thing, all within just the click of a key. And that's really great. And so I basically recreated that here, and I also included a couple things that I thought would just be really nice. For instance, over here, this F1 key, I bought a lock key, and I've been using these keys as though I had the keycaps. Even though I don't, because I bought them from this, it's called like modelfkeyboards.com. They're great people, but oh my gosh, they take forever to get things out, which is fine. It's fine. Everybody's a critic, right? But basically, I've been waiting to get these keycaps for like 3 months now, and they're supposed to deliver it within the next month or so, but yeah, I basically just memorized where each of these keys are, and I've been typing on them since then. So, with all that being said, this keyboard kind of forces you to swap around keys, and I think that was really fun, and I really enjoy it. Now, with the layout being done with, let's talk about the key feel of these keyboards, because there's a very big difference between the key feel of the Model M and the Model F. I know people talk about it and they're like, oh, well, there's not that big of a difference. Well, there is, okay? It's one of those things where when you own a Model M and you switch to a Model F, it's not that obvious. But when you use the Model F and you switch back to the Model M, the keyboard feels mushy, okay? It, like, when you're typing on a Model M, right? It's a great key feel. Like, I really enjoy using this keyboard. Honestly, what I'm probably gonna do over, the next year is I'm gonna probably be swapping between these two because I really do like typing on the Model M. But the Model F has this super satisfying feeling to it when you're snapping these keys down. The keys really do snap down and up when you're using this keyboard. And these keys also snap, but way less aggressively. Like the sound of these two, is very different. Oh gosh, go back. Okay, the sound of these two is very different, and it actually is quite telling of the intensity of these keyboards. Because when I'm typing on this, honestly, my hands don't really get tired. But when I'm typing on this, when I've had to like write out essays and stuff like that, like my hands will get kind of tired. So it's not. Again, it's if you're not somebody who's writing out papers all the time, and you're not somebody who's trying to game, and you're also somebody who's really into just the awesomeness behind these keyboards, I would recommend, if you're looking for just an entry drug, right, a just entry, I would pay $100 and just buy a Model M off eBay, and it was a great decision, great. And if you're looking for something that is more intense and more kind of into the hobby, I would definitely recommend a Model F. I think that this is a lot more fun because of customizing the keyboard and messing with it. For instance, the spacebar is so heavy. Like, you hear that? Like, it's super heavy. Like, this one of the biggest gripes about this keyboard is that the spacebar is so heavy. But they make the spacebar, they call it like a spacebar mod, which is basically they take apart the keyboard and then they bend the like bar that holds this spacebar in place slightly to make it less heavy in order to press it down. I don't regret doing this. This was not the wisest decision, but basically I didn't want to take apart my keyboard, so I literally took these little weights. I think I still have some of them. Yeah, okay, these. I took these weights. These are like tungsten weights, and they're very heavy. And I thought, oh, if I just weigh down this space bar more, it will be easier to press down. And yes, that is true, but it's, first off, I used super glue, and I glued these underneath by using like this little, these little guys, right? I used this and I like put it underneath the keyboard, and I like glued them together and flipped them over and put them up. It's a very meticulous process. And sure enough, the super glue dislodged. So, listen here. You hear that, right? That is my tungsten guys, and they have come loose within my keyboard. So now it's, as it used to be, right, with this super heavy keyboard, spacebar, and also tungsten underneath it. So don't recommend doing like that type of spacebar mod. I am probably going to try to bend it. I'm probably going to do that after I get my keys, because I'm going to be swapping out. Here's another gripe that I have, where you're kind of forced to get new keycaps. The enter key is awesome. Look at that thing, right? That's the big ass enter. They call it that on their website, big ass enter. This is the tiny little backspace, and yes, it is as annoying as it seems to use, because you'll throw your hand over here to go backspace something quickly when you're trying to type, and you will hit this key, and then you will just completely lose your sense of direction when it comes to hitting the backspace key. I've been using this keyboard for probably like 6 months, and I did adapt to using this tiny little backspace, but it is annoying, and I have a larger backspace that is going to be sent, hopefully, by the Model F keyboard people. But yes, that is another example of kind of being forced to mod your keyboard. And I'm probably gonna have to add in like a stabilizer here and move that space over. And I also have, a bunch of other keys coming. But that's another good example because the layout is just it's not great. But you can make the layout really, really good, and really, really good for you specifically. And so I guess my my thoughts are that if you are really into this hobby and you really want to start somewhere, I do not recommend throwing like $300 into a Model F AT keyboard, right? Not the best use of your money. I say get a Model M, right? And this is going to be really great to type on. And some people actually prefer it because it's less snappy and it's a little bit more mushy, but it's kind of a refreshing amount of mushy in terms of you don't have to press down your hands as much. But with this one, I can kind of like crunch my hands down on the keyboard. It is really fun to just like type on this thing aggressively. Sorry if I just blew out your ears, but like it's just fun to be able to like really aggressively type on this thing. And so if I were you, I would get both, but that's my kind of demonstration. And I guess I'm going to kind of type on these, and I'm going to let you listen, and you can get kind of a general idea of what these are to type on. So let's, here, let me.